This conference will now be recorded.
All right. Let me get my screen figured out here. It says always in front, but where the heck are you? Oh, there you are. Okay. All right. Do you see my slide? Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. If you came back for the third time, yay. I'm Deanna Sylvester, and I am the project manager for the educator certification project we have going on over at the Alliance for Massage Therapy Educators. And so this third session, we're talking about preparing our portfolio, our teaching portfolio. In this third session, we'll talk about putting it all together and what to do next. Of course, I'll encourage you to apply for certification in this session, but also want to answer any additional questions we have. So let's jump in and kind of cover the things we have left to cover as far as the portfolio goes. Let me see if I can make the slide go forward. Hey, so we have some talking to do about video clips. So videos of ourselves teaching, what should that look like? And then writing a statement of interest, your personal statement about your teaching philosophies and why the heck you would want to be certified in the first place and stuff like that. So we're going to talk about those components and then talk about what it looks like to apply. So I'll show you the little application portal and talk about who's reviewing your portfolio anyways. You might be curious as to who's looking at it and what they're doing with it. So that's some questions I get sometimes too. And then as we go along, if you have questions or comments, go ahead and comment in the question box or the chat box, whatever it's called. And Naomi will let me know that there's a question. She'll either read the question you typed or she'll put your microphone on and you can ask it yourself. How's that sound? So that's our plan going forward. Interrupt me anytime, Naomi, if you think something comes up that we need to address. All right. It looks like last time we kind of covered the different items in a portfolio that you would want to include in order to demonstrate that you understand and meet the core competencies for massage therapy teachers that we talked at length about in the first session. So we talked about items that might be included in your resume, or sometimes that's called a CV for educators. Same stuff, what your expertise is in and what you've been doing with your career, basically is what's in that. So you'll want to have that item ready to answer questions in the application portal. We talked about syllabi or course outlines or course descriptions and objectives and all the things that might be included in a syllabus, even if you didn't call it a syllabus before now. So now we're calling it that, and we're asking you to submit your example of one from one of the classes that you teach. So, and then we talked about lesson plans. We talked about what might be included in a lesson plan, even if you didn't ever call it a lesson plan before. But you usually have a plan when you go into your classroom for the day or the week or the term or the workshop if you're a CE provider, and you have a plan of what's going to happen that day. What you're going to discuss, what you're going to demonstrate, what activities your students are going to do, how you're going to tell if your students are learning anything, and we call those assessments. So we talked about the differences and the similarities between formative assessments, so how you observe and assess your students as they're forming their education, as they're putting these things together, as the learning process is happening. And then summative assessments, so once you've taught them everything, how do you know how much they retained? And you do some kind of summative assessments at the end to see how well your students grasp those concepts or those skills. And so we talked about those. We talked about how to provide evidence that your students are learning. So maybe you provide actual samples of written tests that they've taken, or maybe you talk to us about the journal entries or how you observe their actual hands-on, different types of evidence for student learning. This is what I look for when I'm observing XYZ technique, or whatever is in your lesson plan. So we talked about those things. We talked about instructor evaluations. Everybody should be asking for feedback from their students in what's working, what's not working. And we call those instructor evaluations. And if you work in a school that administers those evaluations at the end of your course for you, you may have to reach out to your school administrators to get copies of your evaluations, or maybe a summary for this particular course or any of your courses. A most recent course would be the best thing to do, is how am I doing right now in my teaching career, would be the best. And then we talked about letters of recommendation, who you might want to ask and what information you might want to provide to them in order to write a really effective letter of recommendation. So it would be really beneficial if the person writing a letter for you understands the core competencies and what you are being evaluated against during the teacher certification process. So it's really helpful to let those folks in on, hey, this is what I'm trying to demonstrate. I'm trying to demonstrate that I'm competent in these 10 standards, and here they are, and can you speak to any of this? That's what you want to say to your letter writers, okay? So let's talk about the last two things on the portfolio list here, because these are the two things you probably didn't have before. Even if you've been teaching for years, you might not have a video of yourself ever doing it. You just go in your classroom and you do your job. And up until recently, we didn't have people with video recorders in their pockets. Now everybody in the classroom probably has a video recorder in their pocket that looks like a phone, but we don't really use them as phones. We use them as cameras and video recorders and texting machines and everything else. But so we might have to create some videos of ourselves teaching. And then maybe we have never sat down and wrote down our teaching philosophy or a statement about what we do and why we do it. And that's what we mean by our statement of interest. Why are you interested in educator certification? You probably have some beliefs around education in general and teaching massage specifically, and we want to know what your take on it is, and that's what the statement of interest is about. So that's where we're headed. Hopefully that's what you had in mind by joining us today. So let's talk about some video clips. Originally, I made a little video tip that you can find on our website that talks about creating teaching video. And in it, I make some suggestions that may or may not work right now, because I suggested that you grab your smartphone in one of your course days that you find particularly interesting or you're passionate about, and hand it to one of your tech savvy students and say, will you record me for about 10 or 15 minutes during this class? And then you have something on your phone you can look at later and possibly use. But you might not be in your classroom with your students right now. So there are a little bit of different challenges that have come up since I made that video, having to do with our COVID epidemic, or what is it called? Pandemic. It might be also an epidemic, but it's a pandemic right now. But the parameters around the video are still the same. What we're looking for is a video between 5 and 10 minutes long. If it gets 10 minutes or longer than that, it's going to exceed the file limit that you're able to upload in our application portal. So that's the main reason. And then also, I think in 5 or 10 minutes, I can get a good grasp of your ability to interact with your students and deliver a concept in class. We don't probably need to sit in on an hour and a half. So 5 to 10 minutes really specifically, and we need 2 of those videos. So 2 5-minute segments, or 2 10-minute segments, or 1 7.5-minute you get my message here. But 2 small segments of you teaching something. And if you are recording on one of these little iPhones or Samsungs, you can set the what's it called, Naomi? The recording power or the bandwidth or whatever when you're
Resolution?
setting. Okay.
Sorry, I muted you. Sorry, I'm trying to unmute myself. Yes, the resolution. That's correct.
Yeah, so you on these recording devices, and it's probably easier on actual video recorders, but rarely do people use those now that our phones are so easy. But you can set that resolution. You don't want it to be on the highest definition because you're not making this for Hollywood, although you probably look fantastic in the highest resolution. But if you set it for the 720p, which may stand for pixel, I have no idea what the P stands for, then between 5 and 10 minutes will be the right file size. So these are technical things to worry about, but it's something that you should set ahead of time. That way, when you hand it to your student who's going to record you, or your mock student, or your colleague who's agreed to come and record you, to make sure that once you get that really sweet 7-minute segment, that it's within that file size limit, so it's easy to upload in the application portal. So separate of that, if you're not applying to teacher certification, you probably don't care how big your file size is, but you ought to have a recording of yourself. I think it's beneficial to see ourselves in action. Then we can, figure out, if we say, a million times, and we can work on that. Or if we're saying like every other word because our students are doing it and we're trying to match the communication styles in order to connect with our students. There's a lot of real subtle things we can learn by watching ourselves on video. So that's a benefit whether or not you plan to apply for certification, in my opinion. And so in order to see those things about yourself, or about how you present things, or how you interact with your students, you need to be the one who appears in the video frame. So it doesn't do any good if you're recording your students' reactions to everything you're saying and we can only hear you, or if you're recording the wall, or if it's just, we need to see you in the video frame. So when you're turning in your videos, we want to see you present a topic. We want to see you answer some questions from your students, not necessarily the students. Now, I'll talk a little bit about this a little later, what if your students do appear in the video frame, what you need to worry about. But the important thing is you appear in the video frame. It's the whole reason to have a video. You got to be the one. We want to see your beautiful faces teaching your beautiful subjects. And if you do want to see the original little, here's some tips on making your teaching video, you can see that on our website. So, the whole purpose of it is so that we can see you explain a concept, interact with your classroom. So it's helpful if there's more than one person in your audience, and reply to students' questions. So it'd be really helpful. Hopefully it happens organically, but it'd be really helpful if somebody asked you a question during this video so that we could see you answer it in whatever way you might answer it. So, we have no way of knowing whether you scripted that or not. My favorite thing is to watch a teacher think on their feet and respond to questions organically. But everyone has their own different style, and you might know the types of, if you've been teaching a particular subject any length of time, you know what questions are going to be asked. You know the common themes that students are concerned with or have trouble with. And so you can anticipate that, and maybe you want to record that day because you know you're going to get these types of questions. And then you have a nice video of your responses and your interaction there. So that's what we want to see. We want to see you demonstrate these abilities that maybe you've also, in all the other parts of your portfolio, maybe you've also indicated in some way how you meet those competencies, how you meet the core competencies, but this allows you to really demonstrate it. So in a way, this is that part of the portfolio where the rubber meets the road, right? So I can talk about massage all day long, and I can teach you and show you pictures of the muscles in the rotator cuff, but when I demonstrate on you massage, or I demonstrate so that you can watch me work with those muscles in the shoulder girdle, that's really where I get to see, where you get to see what it looks like and how to learn that way. So I think the video part of the portfolio is really where your portfolio comes to life for us, who we don't know you till we get your portfolio and we're reading through all these things, and we see this video and we see the educator come to life. So that's the whole reason to do it. And then when you're trying to consider what aspects you want to record yourself doing, think about what standards you're trying to demonstrate. So you look through, and this is one of the reasons why I recommend you consider your videos toward the end of putting together your portfolio, because look through all your other portfolio items, and if you feel like you've more than demonstrated competencies in all of these standards, but here's a couple standards where you feel like you could demonstrate that your competency in those things a little bit more, how would you do that in a video? And that's what you should present in your video. So if, for example, standard 2 is about I'm going live here trying to remember what standard 2 is, but this is how we do it, right? So you're on the spot. But so I think standard 2 has to do with learning differences and understanding how cultures and different life experiences affect our ability to learn and affect our interactions in the classroom. Well, if you want to demonstrate your competency in standard 2, you might show somehow your interactions in a classroom that show that you know and understand and can address how different people learn differently, and based on their life experiences and what they bring and the value that brings to the classroom. So that would demonstrate your attitudes towards standard 2 also, if you see that as of added value to your classroom, where different students bring different skills and understandings of the world, and you're able to integrate that. Wouldn't that be a beautiful video? Now, I don't know how you're gonna do that in 5 minutes, but it's just a good idea to consider what standards you're trying to demonstrate, right? So that's my thinking about, well, what should I record myself doing? Well, take a look at the standards, and is there anything you do in the classroom you think particularly well that you'd like to record yourself doing that meets, a couple of these standards? And so we want to see you explain the concept, interact in the classroom, but we want to, but it'd be really cool if I could go, oh wow, in that 5 minutes you just demonstrated standard 2 and 6 and 7 and 8, and I check them off as I'm reviewing. So there's my video soapbox as far as what you should consider. And then I've been getting this question a lot. So if you're not in the classroom with your students right now, because either you aren't running your CE program right now, if you're a CE provider, or maybe your school that you teach at is closed temporarily, or maybe your school is open and teaching, but only online right now. Maybe you haven't come back to the live classroom yet. I think a lot of schools are sort of making that transition right now, and it's really kind of tenuous at best, I think. But what about online teaching? Can you make a video online teaching? So my answer to this has always been, can you demonstrate any of the standards in an online format? So right now I'm being recorded and so I'm in the picture frame. You all would be counted as my students, right? So you may or may not be appearing in this video depending on how Naomi is recording. So I'm in the video and my slides are in the video. And if I'm going to go back one slide. If I, on this video, am able to explain a concept, interact with the classroom, which is a virtual classroom in this sense, and maybe reply to a couple questions, whether they're typed out or audio, where I can hear the students, that would qualify as a video recording for your portfolio. So my answer to a lot of people that say, can I do a recording of me teaching online? In today's environment, the answer is yes. Because of the COVID pandemic, we are trying to still help you meet these requirements for the video, but be able to do it in the environment that we find ourselves in, and that's the environment we find ourselves in. So right now the answer is yes. If you happen to be teaching online and you want to try to make some videos doing that, go right ahead and do it. And I want to throw out there too, and I'll stop here in a second because there might be some comments or questions related to this, but I want to throw out there too, I'm willing to look at, if anybody has videos that they've prepared or want to prepare and they're not sure if it would be good to include in the portfolio, I'm willing to look at some videos ahead of time, even before you apply or before you turn this in, and give you some feedback on that. I'm happy to do that if this is one of those things that worries you about turning into video. Well, I don't know if that's good enough. Did I demonstrate this? Did I demonstrate that? I'm happy to look at it and give you my opinion and help you tweak it if necessary. So just wanted to throw that out there too. Now, Naomi, are there any comments or questions related to videos so far? I'm trying to be comprehensive, but I don't know.
So Liz has just asked, if a video is rejected, will they be able to resubmit it?
Yeah, so my answer to that will be videos would never be rejected. Whatever you submit is your portfolio. But if in the event of looking through your entire portfolio, we don't find evidence for a particular standard, let's say standard 10 or something, and including we didn't see it in the video, we will reach out to you and ask for additional evidence. You might get an email from me that says something like this: hey Liz, in reviewing your portfolio, we had trouble finding evidence that we suspect you meet standard 10, but we had trouble finding evidence of that in your portfolio. Please submit additional evidence to show your competency in standard 10. Now, what you won't see in the email from me is what kind of evidence to send me. That'll be up to you, because our whole goal is to make sure you understand what standard 10 is and that you're competent enough in it to provide appropriate evidence. So if that's an additional video, then you send an additional video. If that's something else, a statement, like you write down your understanding of it and here's what you do in the classroom, and maybe that didn't come across in my lesson plans, but here's what I really do and what I really believe, then you have the opportunity to submit additional evidence in that case. In the case where if we got a portfolio where we felt like that the instructor really didn't demonstrate competence in a lot of the standards, they might get a phone call from me to discuss what they could do to improve their whole portfolio before they reapply. But in the event that we suspect you meet it, but we just don't see the evidence in the portfolio, we're going to ask for additional evidence. I think that's the fair thing to do. So a video wouldn't be, not accepted. It's looked at in the entire package. So in addition to these videos, all of these other things, do we have evidence of all 10 standards? within those. So, but again, I'm willing to look at any videos that you've created ahead of time and tell you what I think, what standards I think you're meeting with those videos, just if that's something that's helpful to you in preparing your portfolio. Yeah. Yay. Anything else, Naomi, along those lines?
Not seeing other questions at the moment.
Okay. Just one other little thing about videos. So if your students also, let's say it's a picture of you teaching in class and you can also see the students and they're interacting with you. If your students also appear in the video frame, you should get their permission, their written permission to include them in their portfolio application. Now, these videos are not made public. We don't say, hey, look what everybody's turning in their, you know, but because you're giving a video recording of your students to a third party, which is the Alliance for Massage Therapy Education, and myself and Naomi as administrators have access to those, and then the portfolio reviewers have access to those. The board members have access to those. So those are things that, you know, additional people have access. And in order to protect the privacy of your students, you should get their written permission and say, look, you're appearing in a video I'm submitting for a certification project, and I'd like to use this as part of my application. If your school already, so if you work in a school that receives Title IV funding from the Department of Education, you are specifically bound by FERPA protections to protect the privacy of your students' information, which includes their likeness. And so many of you might not teach at maybe your school's accredited, or maybe it's not. It may be you, your students accept financial aid, Title IV funding from the federal government. If that's true, if your school is under FERPA protections for anyone, it's under FERPA protections for everyone. And so you definitely, they probably have already signed a consent in the admissions process to appear in photos and videos. But if your school doesn't already have something signed like that, you'll want those students. If you're at a school that's you know, private post-secondary, that's not under the Department of Education or accreditation requirements, your state might have some specific privacy rules about your educational facility. So because of all those things, and there's all kinds of privacy concerns, I just say, you know, have your students, if they're in your video, sign a little thing that says, I'm okay to be in this video for this specific reason only, and then just have them sign it. And you should keep those yourself as part of the portfolio. That way, if the Alliance for some reason needs to ask for those permissions, we'll reach out to you and you'll have those available to us. So you won't be asked for them specifically in the application process, but just know if you have students that appear in a video that we receive, we might ask you for those permissions. Okay? Any questions around that one? I probably went off on FERPA a little bit too much there. We'll see. FERPA, by the way, stands for Family Educational something Protection Act. Education something Protection Act. I can't remember. Somebody can help with that. All right, let's see. Statement of interest. So I get questions like, what should I put in my statement of interest? What's the right answer to this? And we don't want to hear what you think the right answer is to why do you want to be certified, or what's your teaching philosophy, or how you meet the core competencies. We want to know your actual thoughts, what you actually do. what you actually believe, because you are the educational expert should you become certified. So we don't have the right answer. We're waiting for you to write to us and go, oh, no, that's not the right belief system. We can't certify that person. We want to know what your teaching philosophy is. We suspect that adds value and breadth and depth to our community as educators. So what you believe and what you have to say is super important. So we want to know, why do you want to be certified? Why do you think this is valuable? What's your approach to teaching? How are you doing this in the classroom, and why? So what's your philosophy behind it? And specifically, if you've reviewed the core competencies and you agree with those being important aspects of a teacher's skill set, how do you meet them? So the reason why I really suggest you write this last after you've put together all your other things is, let's say you've demonstrated, you've compiled evidence that you demonstrate competency in all of these, on all 10 standards, and you just don't see a way to provide evidence for standard 10. You've done everything else and you just can't figure it out. And I'm just arbitrarily picking 10. So you want to make sure you address that in your statement. Here's what I believe about this standard and how I meet it. In fact, I'm more than confident in it because of X, Y, and Z. This is your opportunity to really explain yourself if you feel like the other aspects of your portfolio aren't clearly demonstrating your competency in a way you'd like to be received. So probably that won't be the case. Probably your whole portfolio is going to demonstrate competency in all 10 standards multiple times with all the different pieces that you've put together. But you'll want to address the core competencies in some way, because these are the agreed upon standards for what makes effective and fantastic educators, right? So you might want to include specific examples that you do or you think about in the 4 different categories that the standards fit in. So talk about your beliefs about learners and learning, and your thoughts on the content that you teach, and the way you deliver it, your different thoughts on instructional practice, and then how you feel about your professional responsibilities to your students, to yourself in your professional development, to the profession at large. What's your responsibility to massage education in general? You might want to discuss that. So you're just going to address those areas of the core competencies from your perspective, not from what you think we want to hear, but how do you really feel about this? That's the whole reason I put together a statement of your own teaching philosophy, whether you apply for certification or not. I highly recommend this. It's like if you're starting a business, what's your mission? What's your goals? What's your plan for starting a business? This is your mission. This is your goals for being a good teacher. This is your plan. This is what you believe in. So it's kind of cool to think about getting to make your own statement of, because I just suspect that you're an educator, not because you wanted to hit it rich, fly by night scheme. I'm just guessing, but I'm thinking that's not it. It's probably because you kind of believe in the educational process and you really believe in helping people. And this is one of the ways you do it. So your why may be a little different than that, but I suspect it's along those lines. And this is my favorite part of portfolios to read. I love to see, I can see your personalities in these. I can really understand and be inspired by all of the wonderful teachers out there. It's motivating and inspiring to read people's thoughts and belief systems and descriptions of yourself. to really kind of brag about, this is what I do in the classroom. This is your opportunity to kind of toot your own horn a little bit without feeling uncomfortable. You might feel a little uncomfortable tooting your own horn, but that's okay. Do it in this case. How's that? Any comments along those lines, Naomi? Questions, thoughts, ideas?
I'm not seeing them yet.
Okay. Interestingly, you have to do all this, and I think the requirement says 2 pages typed. And so I'm getting, actually, I'll just leave it on this slide. I'm getting questions like, I've rewritten my statement 3 times and I can't get it below 4 pages. I don't know how to say all those things in 2 pages. You know what we're not going to do? We're not going to reject a 4-page statement of interest. In fact, I'm going to make the argument to our team here that we might extend it to 3 pages instead of 2. I know why we're doing that. If we have to review a bunch of portfolios and we have to read, you know, a 20-page dissertation on each one, that will get cumbersome. That will be too difficult. But if your statement is 3, maybe 4 pages, you know, reach out to me. I'm sure that that's fine. We aren't going to reject it for, you know, length. Now, of course, we want to make sure you know how to follow directions. That's one of the really cool things about educators. We expect our students to follow directions, so we should be able to do that too. But you know, you got a lot to say here. You're fantastic. How are you going to squeeze fantastic into 2 pages, right? So you got to be really good at it, I guess, to squeeze it in. But let me know if you're having trouble, and I'm sure it'll be okay to extend that if you need to. Has anybody started writing their statement of interest and having this challenge? How to squeeze it all in? Liz raised her hand. Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to, you know, we're always writing things for and about other people and other content, and to have to think about ourselves and what is it that I do? How come my students are passing my tests? Those are really good introspective self-awareness questions, and we're asking our students all day long to become more self-aware so they can be good therapists. You know, turning that light on ourselves is so important and valuable in this process, I think. So fun. So I see how easy that is. Create some videos, write a statement, bam, you're done. So let's talk a little bit about the portfolio review process, because unless there's any other comments or questions, and interrupt me anytime, Naomi, so I'm just to keep going, and you can stop me if you need to. But some people are going, well, I'm turning in this portfolio, but who's going to look at it? I'm a little nervous about who's looking at the stuff I'm turning in. And I can assure you that the people looking at it, besides me, because I'm just the organizer, I say, okay, you guys look at these portfolios and you guys look at these portfolios. And then I also look at them sometimes because I like to get inspired. But they're educators just like you. They're people who know what it means to stand up in front of a classroom and do a fantastic job, and then the next day fall on your face because whatever's happening, people are asking the wrong questions, you didn't respond properly, now you've become emotional, you didn't get to one of your learning objectives today because something happened in clinic and all the students needed to talk about it. You all know that those things happen. So do the people who are reviewing your portfolio. They've been where you are, they still are where you are, they're teaching right now, maybe not right this very second. But they're doing what you're doing, and they just happen to have volunteered to go through an extensive beta testing process in our portfolio review preparation and review that we've developed, that got developed in 2018 before I joined the team. So these are people who are experts in the field, but also just people who know because they're standing in the front of the classroom. And so they went through this extensive beta testing project, which included an in-depth study of the core competencies. So they really have taken a look at and then done what you're probably doing now, which is reading through those and seeing if you can understand what each of the standards is saying. They did that, and they got specific training on teaching portfolios, what those look like, what they're for, how to look through them, how to compare those to a rubric. So if you've downloaded any of the things that materials we have available on our website, you've probably downloaded the rubric that goes through each of the 10 standards. And so they learned how to use that specific rubric. And they've also been trained on the online submission software where you upload your portfolio and how they look through your things in a safe and secure way. So they've been trained in all of those things, but it's basically, you could be a reviewer next year. After you get certified, I may call you up and say, hey, we need some reviewers and you're a certified educator, and are you interested in being trained? So it's just basically people just like you, only they just went through this process a couple years ago before you. So that's what's happening in the review world. This is a picture of page 1 of the rubric, but basically they're looking through all of your sources of evidence that you submitted, your application responses, your statement of interest, the letters we receive, the outlines and plans and assessments that you provide, the videos you provide. They're looking through all of that, and they're trying to decide, are you meeting the expectations of this standard, or are you not meeting the expectations based on the evidence that's provided? So one of the things we do is if we receive your application and one of the reviewers happens to know you personally or has been with you, they may choose to recuse themselves from being a reviewer because we're required to only consider the evidence in front of us. And if I've sat in your classroom for, a few times, I know what you're demonstrating, not based on the evidence. Now, we actually train the reviewers to reduce that bias, to only consider the evidence in front of them. So they don't have to recuse themselves, but that is an option if they feel like, well, my best friend's applying, so I'm not going to be one of their reviewers. We do have that as an option, but they're looking through what you've submitted. They're trying to decide, do you meet the standard or not? And they can say yes or no, or they can select the button on the bottom. I don't know, can you see my cursor moving when I circle this? Okay, they can also say, well, the evidence isn't found. So let's say I suspect you meet this competency because I've seen that you meet all those other competencies, but I just didn't find evidence in any of the things you turned in. I can check that box. And when they check that box, I get a message that says, hey, we didn't find evidence of standard 1. And so then I reach out to you and say, hey, provide extra evidence, please, specific to standard 1. And then you get the opportunity to do that. I will say that we've only had to do that one time so far in the ones that we've reviewed. So the portfolios that are being put together are just so thorough and really good in what we've received. So I applaud the folks that are already doing this, being early adopters in this new credential. They've done quite a fantastic job of putting together a portfolio. So that's what's happening. Here's my sales pitch. Hey, have you applied yet? This is the segment of the video where you'll get the tiny sales pitch from the Alliance, which is, hey, go to afmte.org and click on pay my application fee now. If you're an Alliance member, you'll want to log in first because then you'll get it at the Alliance price. So the application fee for applying and portfolio review fee is $250 or $249. I guess it's $1 less than $250. It's $249. But if you're an Alliance member and you log in, the member pricing is $199. So it's actually $50 less if you're a member. You don't have to be a member to apply for this certification, though. Of course, we don't require that. Once you pay the fee, then you get a little link to the super secret special application submission portal. And we use a particular application called submittable.com. It's just a type of application that is used to receiving applications that have multiple aspects to them. So like a portfolio, for example. And so we chose to use this service to collect that. So even if, well, I'm going to go back one. Even if you're a member of the Alliance and you logged in, your membership login at the Alliance is different than your account on Submittable, which is an account you have to create just so you can submit your portfolio. So there's two things there. If you happen to be a member of the Alliance, you have your login stuff over at our website, but you'll create an account here for the Submittable website just so you can upload your application and portfolio items. So you create your little account, you log in, and you start filling out the things. This is what it looks like. It's this hard, people. It's so difficult. You put your name that you want to appear on the certificate. That makes you feel good, like, oh, I really am going to get a certificate. You enter any formal education you have. So you graduated from the Desert Institute of the Healing Arts and with your massage certificate, and you got your bachelor's degree in molecular and cellular biology from the University of Arizona. This is the things I would type in. You should type in your own. And then what's your teaching experience? I've taught here and there, and I've taught this and that, and here's the dates I did that. These are, whoops, I went too far. These are the things that you probably have on your resume. You just copy and paste right into these boxes, right? If you're licensed, if it's applicable for you to have a massage license or certification to practice, if you happen to be also a practitioner, you'll want to put those in there if it's applicable to you. And then you'll get to choose, are you applying as an entry-level classroom teacher or continuing education teacher? And even if you're both, pick the one that you're going to submit materials for. So if you're submitting your syllabus or course outline and your lesson plans for a course that you teach in an entry-level program, check that one. If you happen to be submitting materials for a CE program that you teach, then check that one. It doesn't matter to us one way or the other. No matter where you teach, you would need to meet the standards in the same way. So, and then you'll click on these green buttons that'll allow you to upload each file that we've talked about as part of your portfolio. And if you don't have everything all together, but you've got most things and you just need to go finish writing your statement of interest, you can start this process, upload everything, and then click the Save Draft button over here, and it'll save it. So when you log back into Submittable, once you've finished your statement of interest and you're ready to upload that, everything else will already be in there and saved, and then you can finish uploading what's missing. And when you're done, you click Submit Portfolio, and I get a nifty little email that says there's a portfolio available for me to do something with. So that's the part of technology I love. There are parts I don't love, but there's a lot of parts I do, just like you. So that's who's doing your portfolio reviewing and what the application portal looks like. So if that's something you're in the process of thinking about or ready to apply, you can shoot yourself over to there and get started. Go over to our website and get started. If, on the other hand, you think, I need some pointers on a few things, I'd like to brush up on my understanding of different instructional strategies, maybe I would like to take an online class to see what those look like or something. So remember that we have an affiliation with a place called Max Knowledge. You can go to afmtetraining.org, and it takes you right to their online training center, and you can look through some of the courses there and see if it's anything that might be helpful to brush up on some things specifically in the areas of teaching and learning. You're probably so well versed in your actual content that you teach that it might be refreshing to learn something specific to teaching and learning that anyone that's in education in any field might be taking. So that's something that, and there's plenty of other ways to beef up your education besides this one, but that's one option. And I'll just leave it on this screen for late. Oh, that was last Sunday. I meant to find out what was happening this coming Sunday. Oh well. But you should join us on Sundays during our Sunday conversations, as I don't know how long they'll be continuing, but we have been doing some of those, and you can watch the recordings of all of them, I think, on our website. But just support for teachers in general in these strange times, but just in general. We always need resources and support. I just think it's becoming more apparent right now because of the world we live in is requiring us to walk around with open eyes and open hearts right now. And boy, couldn't we use some support along those lines in our lives and in our educational professional endeavors. So
yeah, and I'll go ahead and
anything else? Yeah, go ahead.
The webinar recording for the latest Sunday conversation that you've got the picture there, that is on the website. It's at afmt.org/blog. So go to the blog, and I just want to say it's a really interesting recording because it's dealing with, I think, an issue that's near and dear to so many people's hearts right now, which is reopening, and how educators, certain recommendations for educators as people are reopening, how they can do that. And obviously there's other guidelines. FSMTB has their guidelines, but there have been some gaps for schools. And so I think it's really interesting, especially I was talking to a person yesterday about, trying to teach certain hands-on components online, and they talked about that in the webinar. And so they are every other week now. So the next one will be on the 28th, but
Perfect.
That is on the website.
Cool, thank you. And I didn't remember that they were going to be every other week now. Yeah, so not this Sunday, but the following Sunday, there'll be another one if that's something that fits your schedule and is of interest. If it doesn't fit your schedule, feel free to watch the videos afterwards, because there can be a lot of good help in there, and some ideas for who to reach out to that might sound like they can answer the questions you have in your mind. So a lot of different guest speakers and people that join have some good things to say. So.
And I see there's been a couple of questions. I wanted to bring up the one. So Liz asked about not seeing the email with the link to submit. And this is one thing I just wanted to point out, and maybe you could, I don't even know if you could pull it up, but the email that you get when you pay your application fee, and you can see it says, after placing my order, I will check my email and click the download link. Okay, so yeah, I know. It's a little, this is like something I'm going to work to try to improve, but unfortunately, it is a little bit hard to see. So when you pay your application fee, you get an email that's titled, I think it's AFMT has received your order. And that email, actually, next to the price you paid, it says the word download, and it's blue, and it's a link. And so that is what you click, and it takes you to it. And I know Deanna has been checking in with people.
See if I can, yeah, I'm gonna see if I can show an example of that without disclosing anybody's information. Let's see if I can figure out how to do this. Okay, I am going to do this, and I'm going to take a screenshot, and then I'll show you guys the screenshot.
And like I said, I'm going to work on a way to make that more visible. It's just that was one of the limitations in our system with the email. And so with it being a link that you click, it was kind of hard to get it to set up, and it's easy to overlook it. And so Deanna has been checking in with people. If she doesn't see them, beginning to submit, she'll follow up with you and say, by the way, we haven't seen you paid your application
Oops.
fee, but we haven't seen you begin setting up your account. And so she's reaching out to people, but
Let's see
I think
here.
it is helpful if people can see it.
It's the
Click the
window.
download. I know it's like download, you're not downloading. So that's why it's a little bit, hopefully I'll figure out a way to get that a little bit better because it is so.
Hmm. Okay, now I'm showing this. Where's my, hang on, going to here, going over here. You guys probably can't even see anything I'm doing. All right. Hey, we have a few minutes. Let's let me be silly with, okay, now I think I can share the correct screen.
Okay.
Share.
Okay, yeah, that's
you're
what it
gonna
was.
get it. Do you see it? You're gonna get an email that once you pay your fee, that shows that your fee was paid. This one just happens to be a screenshot of somebody who's not only a Alliance member, but also an ABMP member and took advantage of the ABMP promo. So that's why theirs was only $99. But see in this little line item, it says download, and that's very small and difficult to see. But that's the link you'll click, and you're not actually downloading anything. That link, download link, will take you to the secret portal for Submittable to start your application process. Is that the link, Naomi, that you're talking about? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so if you pay your application fee and you got this email that showed that you paid, look for the little link that says download and click on that. That's our secret way of letting you know where the portal is. And if you still run into challenges with that, just reach out to me or Naomi, and we'll make sure we know who's paid their application fee. We'll make sure you have the link. So yeah.
And thanks for bringing that up. It makes me, I'll put it higher on my agenda item to figure out something else because it is so easy to overlook, and I want to make sure people see it. So
Yeah.
figure something out. Okay. And there were also some questions about how many certified educators there are currently.
Right now we have 10 that have already received their certificate, so have gone through the whole portfolio review process and been approved. We have actually, I believe, 19 more people somewhere in the process. So they've either just paid their application fee and haven't started turning in their portfolio, or they're in the turning in their portfolio pieces phase, or their portfolio is here and being reviewed. So they're in some kind of process that officially 10 people have received their certificate already and been approved, but we have many more in the pipeline, which doesn't sound like a lot, but we just started this last year, this credential. So we want you to be an early adopter. We want to start having some certified educators out there in the classrooms, because our secret mission, should you choose to accept it, is to gather information about outcomes, student and graduate outcomes in classrooms that have certified educators versus not certified educators. So we need a lot of certified educators out there to gather so that we can gather data. And I've got real researchers that are waiting to start doing these, like real researchers like Nikki Monk and the folks that do research in our field, waiting to be able to start gathering educational information so that we can, back up our claim that's based on nothing yet, which is having certified educators in the classroom will improve outcomes. People have way better outcomes with experienced educators that understand teaching and learning. So, you know, that's our secret, not so secret mission, is to have a certified educator in every classroom if we can. And that requires us to find all of the ones who are already really good at it, like you guys, and get your portfolios reviewed. So.
And we've also heard from some of the people who have already done it that they were able to, you know, get raises, pay raises because they had this certification and whatnot. And so there is gonna, I think, you know, once you get, for example, one teacher at a school, then there is a push to kind of get more and more of the educators at that school to go for that credential, because they start seeing the effect of the one person getting the credential, and then they tell their friends and whatnot. So we're definitely in that early stage with it, but at the same time, you know, I just think it's interesting to note that it also is not only having this, you know, idealistic value of improving massage education, but it's also, you know, for the educators who take it seriously, their program directors take note, and it's something they can put in their professional development files. Some people are, you know, schools where there's tenure, not everyone is, but you know, it definitely within schools is I would say that program directors and the school owners tend to be the ones who, especially if one teacher does it, then they start wanting all of their teachers to apply. So
as a school owner, I would use that in my marketing. My instructors are certified educators. Not only are they content experts, but they know how to deliver their content in a truly educational way. I would use that. And I will say too that I think this can be extremely beneficial to CE providers and CE programs, because there is such a vast array of CE providers out there that are effective and some not. And I think setting yourself apart as a CE provider by saying, you know, I'm a content expert, I developed this workshop or this technique or this course or whatever you teach in continuing education. And not only that, but I am a certified educator, which means I understand the process of learning and how to make sure you learn this effectively. I understand how to deliver this information. I'm not just a content expert. Both of those aspects are really important, I think, and that's what's really going to elevate our profession. So I think, and you know, if I was providing CE programs, I would use that in my marketing too. You know, I'm an approved provider with NCB and I'm a certified educator. I know how to educate you. I know how to help you learn this stuff. I think that'd be an important piece in my marketing too. So just some ideas that I thought of.
and
Now,
then it becomes something you might look for when you're considering which CE classes to take yourself, right?
exactly.
But
Eventually, I think that'll be helpful once there's, you know, people, more and more people adopt this certification, then we'll have that as a, well, hey, this person's CMBE. I think that's our acronym now, CMBE. So we want to see that in your alphabet soup after your name. So thank you for joining me. There's I think still a live link to my SurveyMonkey instructor evaluation. So tell me what worked and what didn't work for my particular content and the way I delivered it, because I'm an educator too, and I want to be better at what I'm doing. So if you have the time to answer a couple questions after this is over, I'll make sure I email that link out to folks again, just in case. And like Naomi mentioned, go to afmte.org/blog, because that's where all our latest news is posted. Like when the video of this one gets done, she'll post it there and make sure you guys have access. And then you can always contact Naomi or myself, Deanna, at afmte.org, with any comments or questions or suggestions or ideas. We're looking for all of it. So thank you so much for spending your time today. with us. We appreciate you and applaud your valiant efforts out there in the educational field, and know that right now is the time to be preparing people for this profession, because the world is about to really need us. They need us now, and as we come out of this pandemic, my opinion is nobody has ever needed touch or understood what touch deprivation is until now. I mean, this is really an eye-opening thing for a lot of people, I think. So let's get ready to prepare our students and our graduates for the wave that's coming. That's my optimistic outlook on this anyways. I hope it's true. Thanks for being here. See you next time.